Oh, hey Tracer, how are you doing?
Where the hell is Gonzalez?
Huh? What are you asking me for? We aren't joined at the hip, you know.
Isn't he your pit boss?
Yeah, but he took sick leave and was gone for 3 days now. No one knows where he is.
Meanwhile,
Hiding out in an extinct volcano on the next island over was the greatest escape plan I ever had. Now all I gotta do is chill out here till the heat's off. Uh-oh. Anyway, now that I got you here, why don't we do that video I had us scheduled for on the Fandom Menace?
Alright. As well. I gotta work off this frustration rage somehow.
Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man.
And I'm Tracer Krieg. Guten Tag, mein Bruder.
Lately, I've been thinking about how utterly cancerous and toxic fandoms can be, including, of course, the Star Wars fandom, or as it now likes to call itself, the Fandom Menace. A name self-described by some scorned fans of Star Wars after the release of the Disney Star Wars sequels, and one still worn to this day by those within the Star Wars community with a more culture warrior bent. This, of course, includes everyone's favorite doxer, Ethan Van Sciver.
I will be the first to admit that for many years, I was an anonymous member and supporter of the Fandom Menace, with probably my largest contributions being my video essays defending the movement from the, oh well, let's be frank, insipid accusations of Freya Prinze Jr. and the YouTube channel Space Doc. My reasoning was pretty simple. I did not like the sequels, nor Disney's effort to slander those who disliked them, or of them trying to bury the legacy of the Lucasfilm of old. Unfortunately, in the paraphrased words of Ronald Reagan, I did not leave the Fandom Menace. The Fandom Menace left me.
Yeah, that really is the main crux of it. Like with any movement, the Star Wars Fandom Menace didn't take long to be taken over by its more extreme elements. Those motivated not by the betterment of the franchise, but those who wished to see it die for the original sin of the sequel trilogy's existence. This is why I said there's a significant overlap with culture warriors. Many of them believe the same things and have the exact same motivations and reasonings.
And what is that reasoning? To perhaps see a return to form and the end of political manipulations in our media? The reconciliation of our divided culture? No. This is their reasoning.
We have done it, Conrad. We have done it. And I was wrong. We have won the war.
No.
You mean we have lost?
No.
I don't understand. If we have not won and we have not lost, then what's happening?
The best thing possible is happening. The war will go on.
For how long?
Indefinitely. On and on and on.
But it must come to an end.
You're a fool, Conrad. Those of us who understood knew in 1941 we could never win.
You mean, Colonel, for 3 years we have been fighting without any hope of victory?
There are many kinds of victory. For the German army to survive, for us to remain in uniform, that is our victory. Conrad, the world is not going to get rid of us after all.
But when do we go home?
This is our home.
And my sons? When do I see them? What will become of them?
They will become German soldiers, and you will be proud of them.
When one bases their ideology upon hatred, especially the hatred of another group or ideology, then victory is not through the success of cultural change, or as I mentioned, reconciliation, but the perpetuation of war. It's a simple war economy equation. If war gives you power, influence, and control, then the war must be continued at any and all costs. A famous example of this concept was in Rome with the Triumvirate, where Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus formed an alliance to keep Rome in perpetual conflict to ensure that they could stay in power as perpetual dictators. Though, I would argue Caesar saw the error of his ways at the end and tried to rectify this to reform before he was stabbed to death.
That does play a lot into how a lot of these figures came to be. Nobody cared who Moeller was before he put on the mask, and ever since EFAP as a podcast started to become a thing, he, Rags, and others have based their entire brand on criticizing Star Wars, Marvel, and other things. All the while not holding the same standards for things they personally enjoyed, like the MCU Spider-Man movies or HBO's The Last of Us. It really has become prophetic when the early criticisms of this group, that they use the terms objective and subjective to mean things they do and do not like, became a reality. I also mentioned Ethan Van Sciver of Comicsgate fame as well. He too saw an opportunity to promote his own brand in his criticisms of Star Wars, which largely consisted of meme videos where he would purchase and break toys of the character Rose Tico. None of it was focused on any real criticism, only promoting his own creations. That would end up taking years and years to come out, and when customers asked for refunds, they'd have their private info doxed by him, but that's a whole different story. And of course, there are also the many nameless and faceless culture warriors who are all too willing to pick up the flag of the Fandom Menace whenever any rumor or clickbait piece about Star Wars hits their desk. It's to the point where you can't trust half of what's said anymore about the brand because a lot of these rumors will just get repeated as fact. Dave Filoni saying that Anakin was the strongest Jedi and being fired for it, Jon Favreau being forced to resign shortly after the failure of Kathleen Kennedy's Indiana Jones movie, Han Solo guest appearing in the Book of Boba Fett. Most of these had very little basis in reality, but because it was popular and they were repeated by the popular YouTubers, they were treated as fact.
All the while, projects like the Heir to the Empire adaptation and other fan creations, who could benefit from the reach of those in the Fandom Menace, are ignored because they are not true Star Wars, Marvel, etc. In reality, supporting those projects negates the group's aforementioned goal of perpetuating their part in the culture war. Why do you think the recent outings like Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian are derided as utter trash when they're at worst mediocre? Why boring slogfests like Andor are declared masterpieces? Because its ammunition and hyperbolic titles sell. They are the doomsday prophets at their worst.
Yeah, personally I'm more with your boss Keck in calling Book of Boba Fett an unsung masterpiece, but it is true. I even fell into this mentality until I broke the echo chamber myself and started seeing these works myself. I was even a fan of EFAP until I decided to watch The Mandalorian and found it was incredibly enjoyable. Our mutual friend Squasher as well decided to play Jedi Fallen Order despite the criticisms towards the Star Wars brand as well as it being a game made by EA, and while he didn't like it at first, it eventually grew on him and he started to appreciate it to the point where he got excited for the sequel. Funny how quickly narratives like the Fandom Menace die the second they meet independent thought, huh? Almost like a lie gets halfway around the world while the truth is still putting its pants on. As I said in my video on Revanchism and the Culture War, a lot of this focus and endless culture warring comes from a place of vindictiveness. While there are a number of grifters in the Fandom Menace, just as many too are like us, Star Wars fans who were spurned by the Disney sequels. The difference being is, while guys like us were mature enough to realize that a couple bad movies is not the end of the world, a lot more are not that, choosing instead to define their entire personalities around getting even with Disney for ruining what they loved. It doesn't matter what comes out after, be it The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, Jedi Fallen Order, Battlefront, or whatever. It doesn't change the fact that the sequels were a thing to begin with. It's like the religious concept of original sin, but whereas with sin you can eventually find absolution through Jesus Christ, for Disney Star Wars, no such path to redemption can be given, because it isn't about redemption, absolution, reconciliation, or justice. It's about punishment.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
You know the difference between justice and punishment.
What? What? Ah! Help! 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 Ah! Fuck you!
Punishment, disproportionate to the crime, only propagates the hatred further, as we are seeing today across the world. As I said before, if you truly want to improve things in the public media, then go put your hard-earned money in places that need it and could rise to challenge the current order. The Orville, Expanse, Game in America, Vox Machina, and many more have already forced corporate entities to change tactics, as that's just how capitalism works. Hell, go support the countless fan projects I mentioned before, as they are more dedicated to the franchise than weekend suits calling themselves writers ever are, and they could certainly use that Patreon money.
In the end, though, extremism does beget extremism, and the best way to face extremism, be it from political activists or even from fandoms, is not to feed it. Most of these fandom menaces are only harming themselves. No one really trusts Moeller or Doomcock anymore due to how they exhausted their credibility chasing lies and exaggerations. Nor do they trust the rumor mill that is the culture warrior media sites like One Angry Gamer or Bounding Into Comics who, fun fact, called me a witch and blocked me for disagreeing with them.
Oh, they did this?
We have found the witch. May we burn, huh? Burn!
I guess the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Even funnier is that they did it while a friend of mine yelled at them for doing so because that friend knew I was a mostly devout Catholic. Okay, maybe I could be a better Catholic, but no one's perfect. But the point being, it's best to pay them no mind at all. When Angry Gamer's traitor spurg out is already proof of what happens to these people when they get too caught up in their own culture crusades. They eventually just lose their minds. It's tragic, really, but what can you do? In the end, most of the Fandom Menace will either grow up and act like human beings again, or will fall into the same trap of extremist insanity. Time will tell. Until then, however, this has been the Koopa Man.
And this has been Tracer Krieg. Don't get obsessed over things, folks. It'll just burn.
Speaking of burns, it looks like the volcano on the next island over is about to blow. I better sound the alarm to alert the resort guests. Wow, that piece of debris landed pretty close. It's a good thing no one was hurt, and wait, that's no volcanic rock. It looks like...
There he is! Gonzalez!
Oh, Krieg!
You cannot escape me! I will chase you to the ends of the galaxy!
What do you do this time? I'll start interviewing replacements tomorrow, I guess. Good night, everybody.